Welcome. Today I'm going to talk about one thing that you can do to transform your digestive issues. So if you have gut issues, if you want to maximize your digestion, I'm going to talk about the signs to know when your gut is off balance. Some are obvious, some are not. And then I'm going to talk about one thing in particular, a very specific thing that you can do to transform this from an Eastern medicine perspective and how you can put it into action today. So my name is Angela Warburton. I'm an Eastern medicine practitioner. I've been working for the last 3 decades with women in the clinic. And this is the number one thing that I see affecting modern day women. And the cascade of having a gut that's off balance is really significant. So just basically the only way we build up our energy to get vitality and energy, or chi, we call it in Eastern medicine, is through the food and our body's ability to absorb it. So not only our energy, but our hormones. It gives our body the nutrients it needs to build muscle, to build up energy to think, to anything that requires energy, and is beyond survival to really thrive. And that's through the gut. We need to have a healthy gut. So when it's balanced, we feel great. All the other systems it feeds, it's basically, we say the earth system in Eastern medicine, and it feeds all the other systems in the body. We have good energy, we sleep well, vitality, and we're extracting the full nutrients from our food. But when it's off balance, it affects everything. So if you've ever had a stomach that's off, you can know that it has, if it's really been off, it really can affect you, and it can show up with things like leaky gut or SIBO. Can often show up as things like loose stools, bloating after you eat, if you have distension, that feeling of like something's like pushing from the inside out, that can be a sign your digestive system is off. If you get tired after you eat, or you notice that you're congested or you get a little bit of phlegm, that's a sign that your body's not absorbing the food well. It can also show up in sneaky ways, like if you bruise really easily, if your gums bleed easily, if you're flossing your teeth or they just have the bleeding, or if they're very, very pale, your gums, if your tongue is potentially pale or swollen with teeth marks. So those little ridges, scalloped edges around the side of your teeth, that's a definite sign that you're not absorbing the food well from your system. If you also get water retention, or you feel like you don't actually eat that much, but you can't lose weight, or you're putting on weight. If you get brain fog, food sensitivities, that muzzy head, or inflammation where your joints are hurting, these are all signs that your gut is off balance. And so in Eastern medicine, we look at the digestive system, starting with the stomach, kind of like a pot. So like a pot that you'd have on a fire or on the stove. And if you're putting stuff into that pot, if you don't cook it, it's not actually going to break down or come together in the alchemy that happens through cooking, and you're just going to have a bunch of raw food in there. So that's basically the same for our internal gut. Everything that hits our internal gut needs to be warmed up, to be broken down and turned into like a soupy medium, so like very almost pureed like consistency. And then it's going to go through the next stages of digestion, like into our small intestine. And so the number one thing that you can do to help support your digestive system is eating warm foods. And in particular, the most important one is eating warm foods at breakfast. So if you think of overnight, you've been fasting, and it's almost like a campfire if you've ever been around a fire. And then if they had a fire and then overnight the fire's gone down, but there might be a little ember in there. You can't throw a big wet log onto that ember. It's going to just put it out completely. But if you stoke that fire with little kindling and it starts to build up more heat and more heat, once it's this big roaring fire, you can throw all kinds of stuff on there and it'll just burn it up. And so that's the same with your stomach. When you start your day with warm foods, you're stoking that digestive fire. And then you're going to be able to absorb and break down things. They're going to turn it into that soupy medium so that it'll go into the small intestine. You can actually absorb your nutrients. And the number one thing I see affecting women, this has happened, I can't even tell you how many times. Women come in with gut issues. I don't feel well. I'm bloated. I'm tired all the time. And what they're doing is having cold, frozen smoothies first thing in the morning. Now, there's nothing wrong with a smoothie, but if you have a weak digestion, your body's not able to absorb it. So it's kind of like you're trying to cook a soup and you keep putting blocks of ice in as you're trying to cook it. It just can't break it down. And so when you're having smoothies in the morning, And so many people are saying, I can't, like, the gut stuff can't be from the smoothies because they're good for me. And a food can be great, but it's only as good as your body's ability to absorb it. So when you cook your food, when you have warm food, then your body is going to be able to break it down. And also, you want to have it in a form that can help contribute to that soupy medium. So there's a saying in Chinese medicine that your stomach doesn't have teeth. So if it's warm and whole food, you want to make sure you're chewing it really well. And when you put it in that warmth, well, it's going to stoke that fire. The best food you could have in the morning is actually soup, like a pureed soup. That is like magic for your stomach. Your body doesn't have to do any work to break it down. It's already in the exact form that it needs to send it into the small intestine. So a warm soup is great. I will put one of my favorite soups in the show notes, my green soup recipe. Women love it. It's a great one because it's easy to absorb. The greens are great for the liver. They're good for building the blood. It's got so many things, but any kind of pureed soup would be great. I also have a great breakfast soup that I love doing that's more like chunky vegetables. So anything like that would be great. Now, it doesn't mean you can like never have a smoothie if you love your smoothies and you're like, I will not give up my smoothies. But important to look at number one, how do you feel after you eat or you have them? So if you're getting bloating, distension, that's a sign that your body's not absorbing. So you can have your smoothies later in the day. You could warm up your smoothies. So do a warm smoothie. A soup is kind of like that, but if you have ones, just making sure that it's not frozen, it's not cold when you put it into your system. Sometimes putting in warming spices like cinnamon and ginger can help warm it up, the properties of it as well. Also, don't have it every day. So mixing up what you have every day, getting that variety is really helpful. I find sometimes people can have a smoothie one day, they're fine. If they have it 2 days in a row, they don't feel so good. So having it warmer, having something warmer, a soup the other days, or steel cut oats, or some sort of frittata or something like that, mixing it up, that can be really helpful. And or literally heating it up. Also, eating seasonally. So in summer months, we tend to have more heat in our system. So we're able to process more raw foods or things that are a little bit cooler in temperature. In the winter months, we need more heat. So in the winter, I say never really have any of those frozen foods or cold foods, particularly first thing in the morning, because it's just too much cold and it throws our system off of balance. So there's so much that you can do if, and little things, this is part of that just one thing series. So just little things that you do every day make a big difference over time. If you have gut issues, I'll put a link to my gut course in there to reset your gut because that is the foundation of so much. And I'll put the green soup recipe in there, a little freebie if you're interested in trying that out. So hopefully that helps. Just one thing, it's a little thing every day. When you do that, it will make a big difference. So love to hear if that helps. And thanks for being here. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.